Cheers to you, brother.
Cheers. Here we go. C4.
Gaston
This is brought
Griffin.
to you by C4 for all your nutritional. That's a lie. No.
Send the check.
Come on now.
All right. What's up, G?
Man, just living the dream.
Got it.
Yeah.
I mentioned to you a few weeks ago, thanks for all the patience. We finally got here.
Yeah.
I started seeing all the stuff you were posting. I always knew you were an educator.
Yeah.
And you're a great father. We met through your wife, Alexis.
Incredible.
You got 3 healthy baby boys.
Yes.
And a beautiful girl on the way, if
Yes.
I can say that.
Woo.
You're a busy man.
Yes.
You're a busy guy.
Never not working or,
Yeah.
just busy. I'm around kids all the time, which is awesome. God has blessed us tremendously. Our house is like always loud. There's always like pitter patter down the hall or someone laughing or crying. You can't tell, but it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Got it. And where are you currently teaching?
Yeah. So I work at this school called Alpha, and
Got it.
it's this really unique, we call it disruptive educational school. It's a private school downtown. And our big thing is we take 6 hours of school and condense it to 2 hours of Common Core. And then in the afternoon, it's 4 hours of life skill. And so kids are actually excited to come to school, excited to do the work.
Okay.
And with their 2 hours of learning, it's very specific to their needs. So we identify their gaps and fill in those gaps. We believe in mastery, and we believe in testing kids, pushing them to their limits within those 2 hours. And in the afternoon, we're working on grit, financial literacy, leadership, public speaking, all those life skills that you can take.
What's the age demographic?
Yeah, so we have all the way from kindergarten to high school.
Okay, my brain's a little spotty. What's kindergarten?
Kindergarten's 5. So my son goes to the school. He's 5.
Got it.
He's been 5 all year. He'll turn 6 when school year ends. And he loves school.
Okay.
And I love it because we test even at the kindergarten age, and his second test had crazy growth. And my kid at 5 could read and do math way better than I could. Like he's in like first grade, second grade level. And so it's really cool to see that.
Prior to, what's your oldest's name?
Gideon.
Gideon. Prior to bringing Gideon into the Alpha program, what were you guys doing ages like 3, 4, 5 for education? So
we were at a parochial school, just like a Christian private school, pre-K 3, pre-K 4, 2 to 3 days a week. A lot of enriching stuff at home, playing outside, running around, taking road trips, all the stuff that is still learning. You may not realize it, but you go on a road trip, your kid's going to learn. It's going to, he's going to ask questions. Also, Mom and I read a ton before bed. That was like a real big deal. When he was just learning how to walk, he'd go get a book, sit in our lap, and we'd open the book. So just the little things that, get your kid around the education, read to them, listen to them, allow them to have a voice, I think really helps with that learning process. So.
Got it. And what's the enrollment process like for Alpha?
Enrollment, it's never just jumping in. It is a pretty expensive, unique private school experience.
Tell me the numbers.
I want to say they're about $40,000.
Okay, for the year.
For the year.
Wow.
And that, we had students go to Poland and hand out computers to 500 kids. We had kids program self-driving cars and then go test them at F1.
Wow.
We had kids work on grit and running and athletic performance and then go do a rugged maniac. So it's just a tough mutter. But we like to immerse our kids in their test to pass and opportunities. And we've got resources that allow the learning experience to be more, just a little more grand, and it takes away the takeaway, what you take home, what you feel, what you recall is just a little greater because you're able to fully experience some of those things. So
so my son just turned 3. He'll be, we got 2 years. And I'm hoping if I know you, we can kind of smack those numbers around a little bit.
Come on. There's also a scholarship program. It's not, everyone's not just dropping 40, but it is something that we are trying to get into the get charter school certification. Also, we are building smaller schools. We've got an aiming school coming out. Shout out to Danny Martin, one of my teammates from track. Back in the day, Go Roadrunners UTSA, he started this place called Exposure, and it's this big e-gaming arena. And so he's helping us build this e-sport I guess, approach to school, where kids will learn for 2 hours and then go and play games and learn life skills that help you in areas that you may not think are important, like socialization areas, like fitness. Like you've got to do so many push-ups, pull-ups, running before you can get into the games. But it is something that's meant to grab the kid and meet the kid where they're at. Like not everyone wants to sit and just do math. Like kids playing a video game, you're going to have to go to a checkpoint. You're going to have to continually problem solve and find solutions. So there's also a sports academy coming soon. So they're doing a lot of stuff, or we're doing a lot of stuff that we hope meets kids where they're at and really works on the motivation of kids.
And this is downtown in Austin.
Downtown Austin, yes,
amazing.
Sir.
Well, that's good to know. You know, also a father, right? And have my co-parenting situation. You know, my upbringing with my parents, I certainly don't have a manual to how to raise kids, and I think very few do. Whether you have the means to have complete support or not. So I'm just always very thoughtful and cognitive of, okay, is he progressing correctly? Is there something, a path I should be putting him in? But I have heard of Alpha, obviously. You know, I moved here in July of 21. But that's really cool and interesting.
Oh, it's amazing. I was so lucky to stumble upon it. Honestly, my little sister had a roommate in New York at the time, and her sibling worked for Alpha. And this was during summer of 2020, which was crazy. And I had my old students from Chicago and San Antonio start to reach out during just that summer of, you know, just unrest and like upset young people. And they're like, why didn't you teach us this? Why didn't you teach us about more Black history, more history about people of color? And I was like, man, I'm teaching you to pass the star for history. Like that was my job. And so that push really pushed me back into the classroom. And I was so lucky to find this unique classroom. I feel like I've got a calling to help kids and teach. And God just kind of put me back in an opportunity to do so. So it was cool. And
I don't want to say competitors, but like what are the other kind of schools in that price range in Austin that are can you compare of it?
I don't know that there's anyone in that price range, but I know like our middle schoolers are trying to get into the St. Stephen's, the St. Michael's, some of these really great private schools. And I think really what our kids get to walk away with is an opportunity to do these masterpiece projects. And so what that means, we have a student who has built a huge bike park in the state of Texas because that's what he's passionate about. He was able to fund or raise $300,000 to build this bike park. We've got a young lady who has built this incredible following about beating cancer through proactive, you know, dietary opportunities, like really focusing on, okay, if I'm eating right, that can change what my body's doing and potentially, you know, stop or prohibit some of these cancers that are out there. So we have an amazing group of kids that are passionate about topics and career paths, and we try to connect them to those areas and really put it on them to do the research, to do the stuff that, like, if you wanted to be a boxer and you wanted to train boxers, if you had someone that said, okay, let's go start that business, you would do that in middle school, high school, if you had the resources and the push. And
that's special.
That's something that I don't think we see often. We've got a kid who's, I think, going into the pro circuit for wakeboarding or water skiing. I'm not a water sport guy. I don't know exactly what it is, but we're trying to connect kids to their passions and fuel that fire, man. Yeah,
that's how you sustain something for a long period of time. Giving them something they're going to be excited about, and then also giving those the history, the science. You know, our
kids still have to make incredible grades. They're still trying to get into these, you know, top tier schools. And so
you said pre-K, kindergarten to what?
Kindergarten through 12. So we have seniors. We've got seniors going to Stanford, Vanderbilt, I want to say Northeastern, Howard, like some great schools to get into, while also pursuing personal projects that they're going to be proud about and hopefully jump into their careers from high school and not have to go another 4 years in college, not knowing what you're doing. So
love that.
That's a big deal.
That's awesome. And so, you know, tell me, I know you've been working on this project, this initiative, this venture, for a little while. I'm excited about it, but would love for you to just kind of introduce it.
So Accountable Purpose was something that was started back in, 2021. I reached out to some of my old middle school students, 6 kids. Shout out to Daquan, Quali, Shifu, Jalen, Rashad, and Jacob. I took them to breakfast and I was like, hey guys, I have this idea. We're going to set goals and I'm going to check in with you every week. And so some of these guys had kids already. Some of these guys are working jobs. 2 of them were playing college football and, going to school. And the whole point was whatever you're wanting to do, let's set goals around it, physically, academically, socially, and emotionally, and let's just check in. From that, I think the one that's been most consistent is my student Jalen Smothers, who is finishing his senior year at Incarnate Word, finishing a physical therapy undergrad degree and playing football. And I mean, he shadowed Mo and Alexis. He's come up here. He's just in love with this, and he's been able to connect to his purpose better and sustain a 3.8 GPA for the past 3 years.
Wow.
And so from that, I was able to grow this use case of this process, right? Of this set goals, check in. I think working with kids and people, it's a long play.
Yeah.
Developing people or working with people, it's not a, hey, I'm going to hit you up, in a month or so. It's, hey, how are you doing this week? And then calling the next week
Sure.
and the next week. So from that, I've been able to create this software as a service that's being turned into an app called Pulse Check. And what this is going to do is allow other students to do the same thing. They can log in, set their goals, and they can check in. There's a video check-in where they can say how they're doing. They get immediate AI feedback, and this is all connected to their coach or mentor on the back end. And so why I find this so important is because people, if you want to grow, you have to be aware. And so to grow in self-awareness, you have to reflect on how you're doing. And so this allows kids to reflect and grow on their own, and their coach or mentor see that, and then be able to show up with more intention, be able to show up with the plan, be able to understand the student-driven data that they produce, and also get a little help and empowerment from AI. So it sounds like a lot, but it is it's something that's a big deal, and we're working to get it out there. And
so it's amazing, and I want to touch upon it personally as well.
Yeah.
But break down for me, okay, so that part, so at scale, you have this app. Student signs up, and also their mentor of choice, or are you guys providing the mentors on the platform?
So what I've found that institutions that work with students hire great people who love working with students. So this is geared more towards the coach, the mentor, the advisor, right? That says, hey, I need to be able to understand my kid. Now, when I was working in Chicago, I coached girls basketball. Westside Chicago, shout out to Clemente, let's go. Westside Chicago is no joke. And I had this awesome group of ladies who wanted to, play basketball and do well. So I know I've got to meet them where they're at. So I've got to understand who these kids are. So as the coach, I want to sign up for this so my kids can use it. And in using it, I can see exactly how Tasia, Larshanae, Sierra are doing. I give them a chance, hey, go do a check-in and I'll follow up. When you give a kid some autonomy to voice how they're feeling, you unlock something, because now they feel like they're being heard. And as a coach, I can jump in the hole with you if I know where you're at. Kids don't want to be told, hey, do better, do better, do better. They want you to walk next to them and say, hey, how can we do this? What's the plan here? What's the solution? And so that's what it does, is it gives you the opportunity as a coach to understand your students' goals. It gives you the opportunity as a coach to understand how your kid is doing in the moment. I like to use a scale of 1 to 10. And if you ever hear me talking to my students, I'm like, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, how you feeling today? I did a little check-in with my son, and I asked him, how you doing on a scale of 1 to 10? And he's all 10s for everything, because he's 5.
Love that.
But physically, academically, socially, and emotionally, kids are not just what they can do in the classroom or what they can do on the field. They're a sum of all those parts, right? A holistic approach, I feel, is the best approach. I think when you understand where the kid is at socially and emotionally, you'll see how they show up on the field or in the classroom. I guarantee you, if you had a bad day, it impacts how you show up on the court or in the ring. So I believe that if a coach uses this and gets their kids signed up, and the kids start using it. We've had some students using it right now. There's a little over 60 kids using it, and we've had a great response because they're able to say how they feel, and we're able to come alongside them and be like, wow. And even using the AI to empower coaches. I don't like the idea of replacing people with AI.
Yeah.
So we want to empower them. So based off of the data the kid gives, right, and that goal that they set and the check-in, then the AI can say like, oh, based off of this is where you're trying to go. Do these next steps. And now as the mentor, I can come in and we can make a game plan, or even just look at that and say, what do we think? Do we like this?
Right.
Try something else? But it gives me something to go into that meeting or that one-on-one connection with.
Mm-hmm. So are you currently reaching out to other school systems and specific academic
Absolutely.
organizations?
Absolutely. Like any person, I started at home. I went back to Northside Independent School District in San Antonio, Texas. I called Coach Wilson, who was my receiver coach in high school. The biggest thing he would tell me was run back to the huddle. I could still hear him in my head saying that. He was also my track coach. He's the one that kind of pushed me to running track, to running the 400. I didn't want to do it. He was like, you got a gift. He's now at the district level. So I was able to sit with him and show him this app. And he was more impressed that I knew how to use AI. But I told him, I was like, hey man, I'm here because you invested in me as an 18, 17-year-old. Like you spent time to push me. Right? You spent time, like I was able to go get a 4-year scholarship because of his push. And so I want to go back home first. I was able to meet with the athletic director, Coach Lang, and have some follow-up meetings. I'm also met with some educational institutions that identify at-risk students, because what we want to do is, man, there are tons of things out there that want to invest in kids, and I believe this is a tool that really helps people do that. Really helps people who find that it's their purpose and passion to uplift others and specifically develop young people.
Sure.
This is a tool to do that.
And how do you define at-risk?
Yeah, so when I was in Chicago, I was our grade level lead for 9th grade, and so we had a graduation plan. Like you could see how if a kid was going to graduate in 4 years based off of their first and second semester of freshman year. So all of my D and F students, who are oftentimes black and brown boys, we identified that population, and then I would meet with them once a week, and I'd set up study hall during lunch, and if everyone got above a C, I would do like a big basketball tournament. And so really the at-risk is DNF students or students with a high frequency of behavior issues in and out of the office. So those kids are just as important as the kids making A's.
Right.
They just, for some reason or another, they're not hitting it. And so oftentimes there were other issues that were causing that DNF or those behavior issues. So what I learned, and I think maybe this, comes from Chicago and San Antonio, teaching those kids is like, there's power in seeing a kid. There's power in saying like, hey man, you got a little haircut? I see you. Hey man, I see that it's your brother's birthday. Like knowing the kid and seeing where they're at, that's a big deal. And so that was a huge opportunity for me just to connect with kids and be present for study hall in Chicago. So that at risk, we were able to partner with the University of Chicago and have a bigger scope of schools in our network. We were in network 14 and 15, seeing those larger populations. Also in different regions of Chicago, you could see where there was a spike on the west side or south side of Chicago in those DNF students. And so we had to do more. And so that was our plan. And I feel that you don't have to do that with just DNF kids.
No.
You do it with anyone who has a goal and wants to develop. So I feel like this is a culmination of everywhere I've been in my 12 years in education.
Special. My brother and I grew up in Brooklyn, single, parent household, public school, welfare, the works, food stamps, but even all that aside, right? Because sure, a lot of kids, private school, probably have horror stories yourself of like you guys having to go into the homes or try to dissect what's going on with these kids outside of the academics. But for us, even with all that aside, I can't tell you ever once elementary, junior high, high school, there was ever like, for my brother and I, this purpose of mission. I'm here in school because this is a vehicle to get me to this. Yeah. We were just kind of like showing up, following the rules, figuring it out, but there was never any intent because there was none of that dissecting each individual and figuring out what their interests are.
Yeah.
You know, so having that, and then having coaches, teachers that are going to guide you. I mean, I can only imagine, you know, it's a complete, it reshapes your way of thinking and sets you up for success.
That's the hope. All right.
Right.
I think my first coach was my mom. Francina Griffin was no joke. Like, it was get it together or get out. Yeah. And I love her for it.
Sharp left hook.
Oh, man, seriously. My big brother and my mom, like, they got into, not a fight, but they got into it because it was myself, my brother, my big cousin, and my little sister for a while. My father wasn't there for a good portion. Once I turned 14, he left. But my mom, she had some tactics that I don't think would work nowadays, or maybe they would. But, like, for example, if we were acting up, she'd put us in the car. She'd drive us to the tough side of San Antonio and park the car. And we'd look out the window, and there'd be dudes drinking 40s hanging out on the corner. And she would say, "Is that where you want to be?" Right. And we're like, "Please drive away." Sure. And she's like, "Is that where you want to be?" Right. I'm like, "No." And she would tell us, all you owe to society is to take care of yourself. And that, like, man, when I tell you, she told us to get your degree, get your master's, marry, and treat them right. Like, it was a very serious, even in college track. My grades weren't good enough. NCAA clearinghouse said I couldn't run. And my mom said, you could give up or you could do the work to walk on and get the scholarship. So that's what I did. I was a walk-on. I wasn't even a scholarship athlete because I couldn't be. So it was her push that what really got me there. And I think she came to maybe 2 track meets my whole life, but she was so present, and we ate well. Like, she always had a hot meal on the table, and she was just so present where it mattered. So I don't know that everyone has that. And I wanted a coach. I gravitated towards the Russell Wilson or the Rodney Wilsons, the Russ Crippses, these men who were just in my life as coaches and youth pastors, but they were present and they were serious about it. Right. So I think all in all, I'm just trying to recreate what helped and saved me.
Let me ask you something, G, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
And maybe you seem like you do some reflecting and go into the dark room up there every now and then and see what's going on. Your 14-year-old self, how does that person look at that situation of your dad leaving, and how does you now, about to be a parent of 4, look at that situation?
Bro, you don't make me cry on this thing.
No, we're good. I can go first if you want.
Yeah, you go first. No. Sorry, that's tough. Right now, my dad's in jail.
Okay, well, we don't have to dive in.
Let's dive in.
Yeah, I think it's healthy.
When
all of this, by the way, you know, my upbringing with my brother and I lost our dad when we were 11, 12 from drugs. Yeah. Since then, we got evicted up until we were like 16, bouncing around Brooklyn. Yeah. But being a dad now. Yeah. And sometimes it gets hard. Like, hard, dude. You know, with the kid, work, life, baby mama, business. And I see, you know, we're only human. Yeah. It's easy to walk out the door. It's hard to stay there. And, you know, catch, slip, roll, find a way out.
Just get hit.
But, you know, tough times don't last. Tough people do. That's right. And I think with challenging situations, it molds you and it really defines you and who you are. So all of that to say, you truly have your purpose probably because of those situations.
100%.
You know?
100%. And like, at the time, I had a youth pastor, Russ Crips, who, man, there were some days where he would sit in.
To clarify, he wasn't in the Crips, right?
No. Okay. No, he's not. He's from Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Copy that.
Just, he was a great guy, and he just spent time. Kids spell love Time. And he would spend time with my brother and myself. He was a great leader. I believe great leadership duplicates itself. And there's probably 5 or 6 guys that were underneath his leadership that are now pastors. My big brother's a pastor as well. Okay. And it's because he modeled what it was like, or what it should be like to be a Christian, and to like love hard when it's like difficult. So I had, dad left, and Russ kind of just stepped in as this figure. He was present. He'd come to my football practices. He'd pick me up after school. We'd go get chocolate milk, beanies, tacos, just hang out with him. And that really showed me the way I want to be for someone else, that's what put me into teaching. If you asked me in middle school at 14, what do you want to be when you grow up? A youth pastor. Because that's what was present
That's awesome.
for me. Man, well, I feel like I am a youth pastor now as a teacher, just minus all the Jesus because we're in school. But
Sure.
I was able to see his example, right? And my mom will tell you she was in survival mode and she did a great job. And purpose and living for God and making right choices, that was always like a push. That didn't make it easy. In college, I was out there. I was wild. But I always knew I wanted to help people like people helped me. And so, like, I'm just trying to recreate what Russ Cripps did for me and just be present. Yeah. And I understand that it's not a flash in the pan. It's a long play. Yeah. It's a constant, hey, man, let's check in. Hey, man, you got time to check in? Hey, man, you got time? And that, to me, is the best I can do. Like, just being present, not creating some, like, crazy thing, just checking in. So I believe my purpose was established at 14, 15 because of the pain that I got to persist through. Sure. And so God is so graceful in that, because as a father, like you're saying, there are times where, it gets difficult because there's a lack of sleep, right? No one talks about the lack of sleep. Right. No one talks about that. But when my youngest gets up in the middle of the night and I'm not super kind to my wife because we're trying to figure out who's going next, shout out to Alexis, you're the best. That's where I've got to put on the dad hat and be like, you can do this. Right. You got this. And it's not easy. I think being a present father is the hardest thing on the planet because there's so many distractions. And like you said, it's easy to leave. But I feel like my purpose in connecting and checking in with kids starts with my boys at home and my little girl one day. Like, I want to be present for her. So her view of a man is upstanding. It's like, I want to make it hard for any guy who's trying to date her later because she's got this great dad that was present and there and treated her right. So I think it all comes back, like where you go through the struggle, but then you get the opportunity to live out, or like not necessarily go through the struggle again, but like, hey, now you're the adult. Now you're the dad. What are you going to do? Right. And that, like, that's not easy. It's a daily decision. So
big time.
I
appreciate you sharing that. How important to you is implementing fitness in your routine for taking care of yourself while you're kind of juggling all this?
Oh my gosh. It's, I think all of this has happened because I've had the opportunity to focus more on myself. Last year, or it was like 2 years ago, I started this like daily mile, and I'd run a mile every day. And I was like, I need to do something difficult. Like, I need to push myself daily. And that was good, but it wasn't like awesome. Yeah. It was like, it's just a mile. After, I think I went 530 days of running a mile, and I'd post it like, day 532, I ran a mile again. And it's like, it's 1 mile. Yeah. I didn't do anything after. So now I've started to actually lift a little more, run a little more, spend more time in the sauna, spend time just being quiet. I think that's, taking care of myself is huge, and having an incredible wife that sees that I need that as well, that I need a second to like take care of myself. Like, she's allowed me to go to the gym super early in the morning. I'll leave the house at like 4:30 just to go to the gym, just to like start the day focused on myself, like put on some church music, or like try to get an attitude of gratitude, but just be thankful for the opportunity to invest in myself a little bit. And then it helps me go out and do something better for someone else. But I feel like I have to get in the gym, go for a run. I've gotta, like, I'm 38. Like, the knees don't hold up like they used to. These Achilles tendons are on their last, but I still have to put in something to like, it's like, it makes the grind a little more like tangible. Fair. Right. So
I always think about it, all these layers, they all pile up of family, work, relationship, and they pile up. And if I don't work out, they continue to pile up. But when I do, it's like, it just allows me to see everything on an even table. Yeah. And navigate things a lot smoother.
100%.
Otherwise, they just pile up, and then you get more tired, more stressed, more frustrated. Yeah. And you compromise yourself and your ability to juggle all those things. Yeah, 100%. Fitness is the equalizer for me.
Yeah, I think what I really want to do is put those gloves on. Okay, I want to get in the ring. But even in doing that, it's like, man, I don't know that I have time in my schedule. So carving out time to be active, even when you don't really have a lot of time, going for a 15-minute run or going into the garage and doing some push-ups or something. So I've got to do something. I feel like it's therapy. It's good for you. So.
I had my buddy stay with me last weekend, and I have I have my son. It's kind of comes out to like 1 week on, 1 week off. Basically, 4 days 1 week, day and change the next week. It's just how it added up. That's just what I got. I fought for and I got that. Yeah. And eventually maybe some more will come. But on the days where I have them like those long weekends, I only really need 3.5, 4 hours of a sitter. So I can just go and do what we're talking about. So I have a buddy come in and I'm like, hey, Athens up like 7, whether you're hungover or not, kids getting up.
Yeah.
And they wake up and they're after you. So I tell them, 9 a.m., you sleep till like 8:30-ish. I'll be up with Athen. I'll keep him out of the room. And then sitter comes.
Yeah.
And what does he do? Starts waking up at 9, sitter's there. And I'm like, schmuck, it's 25-30 an hour. I only got 3.5 hours left. I'm going to leave you.
Yeah.
Let's go. So it's like, you start to get really, you realize how important those hours to yourself are, because they're not easy to come by.
No.
Yeah.
And they cost money. Like literally there's an opportunity cost in the form of
100%.
hiring your nanny. And man, but I do think the intentionality, right? Being intentional with like, okay, I have this window. I've got to go do it. I feel like as a dad, you got more skin in the game, because if you don't do it, if you just sit on the couch or whatever, like you wasted it. And once again, like I have, you met Alexis, she's incredible. And like, she's so kind, and we get to figure out, our schedules, and it's not always easy. She is an incredible therapist, and she trains and treats people, and like, I got to give her space to do her thing as well. And like, how I do that and how my attitude is matters, because she's such a caring person. If she sees me off, then she'll be like, oh, it's okay, I'll do it. And that's not fair, right, to her. So I think it only gets more difficult as you get older and more responsibilities, but it's just more rewarding once you get to do it, because it takes a little more to do it. But
I'm assuming like my clients, I'm assuming you're kind of like your parents in that school. A lot of price insensitivity.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
yeah. So whatever. So sometimes it's funny. I'm like, I would talk about early days with my clients that are about to have a newborn, and 3 months in, 6 months in. My son's 3 now, and I remember a while ago when my son was like 6 months or a year, I'd be like, damn, you guys have 2 kids, and waking up, and then this, and then I remember one of them goes, we never did that. We had a team. We had staff. Oh. And I was like, okay, to each their own. What's that like?
Man, try me. Yeah. I'll be like, just bless me. I'll try it. Let me go.
I find it like funny sometimes where these kind of people are like just trying to figure it out, but have the means. So they're just going to do all the things for better or for worse. And I'm sure it's all going to work out.
Yeah.
But like, then there's this other side of like, having to be the person waking up in the middle of the night and doing all the things.
Oh yeah.
So it's pretty funny.
Dude, that is the hardest thing. And that's where like I have to apologize to my wife, because that's where I get a little chippy. That's where I get a little attitude. I'm like, did you give him water? Is the light on? And she's like, I don't know, I'm in bed. So that's like, it's hard, but I'm learning, that doesn't last forever. Here's what my mom said. I keep talking about Coach Francina Griffin. My mom, a couple weeks ago, I was just complaining, and she goes, you're living in the best time of your life. This is the best time of your life. And you don't realize that. Yeah. Like, those kids are going to grow up. They're going to leave. It's going to be you and your wife, and you're going to miss all that. Right. Because you're complaining about all that. Like that's a blessing.
Yeah, fair.
And that, to me, like, man, that framing, I think is what I need, like, constantly, because the pitter patter and the laughter and the screaming, like it's good. It is great. It's a blessing. Like, there's people who struggle to have kids. There's people who struggle to have, a place to.
Fair.
Right. And so I think, as hard as it is, I need to like constantly reframe my mind to have gratitude for the situation.
Fair. Because we're only human, and after a while, when you get fatigue and then all of a sudden you get sensitivity to like noise and things breaking and this and that.
Gosh.
So like you're only human.
Yeah.
So every now and then it's helpful. Parents talking to each other, moms, dads.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Like, hey, this is it. Embrace it. I try to think about that when my son's who's 3 would do like a little bath, and then I'll put him up on this thing, start changing him and all that, drying him off, and he's like fingers all over the mirrors and all that everywhere. And then like I try to think about it. There was one time where I was like, and then I was like, I don't care. Those fingerprints aren't going to be there forever. Yeah. You know, so let them be.
How do you feel about stickers?
Stickers are tough because sometimes they can't come out. They come off. They get really.
I hate them.
He had a phase where it was like stickers on himself, stickers on the dresser, stickers on the food, everywhere.
I'm just like,
Thankfully, we're not so much in the sticker phase. It's more like anything Spider-Man and sharks right now.
Yeah, we're in the ninja phase. Wait for the ninja phase, because then they're just. We were watching Last Airbender. We had to cut it off because I'm like, bro, it's too much fire. It's too much, and then like you hear like, you hit me, and I'm like, well, y'all are practice fight. So I may need to send them to you. Stickers, markers, those little puffs, and like all these things that you're like walking around the house and like one of them ends up in between your toe. But it's gonna be a sad day when they're all teenagers and running through the house, and like maybe it won't. Like I can't wait for that phase actually.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to a little bit more of them having their routines.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah, 100%. Cool. I want to take my wife on dates again.
Yeah, I'm sure that'd be good. How long you guys been married now?
This is year 8.
Wow.
Yeah, so this is we got married back in 2016, back in July, and Alexis is just, we got married in Chicago, so we were super blessed to have a really cool wedding that we paid for on the river, so parents couldn't say anything about it.
So nice.
And then she worked maybe an eighth of a mile, not an eighth, 0.8 of a mile away from the house, and I worked 3 miles away at Clemente.
Perfect.
Could ride a bike to school and like
that's so nice.
Random dates in the middle of the week, stuff like that.
I love that.
And then kids.
Yeah, and then kids. The evolution. So, all right, we touched up on a lot. I really appreciate the time.
Yeah, man.
Is there anything else that you want to leave us with? I'd love to know exactly what are the next steps.
Yeah. So next steps as far as like life
and also the venture
coming. Yeah, the venture is incredible. Family wise, we're just trying to figure out schedules and just, boys are about to start playing soccer in 2 weeks. And I'm just like, guys, soccer? Like, why soccer? But they're going to start soccer. The venture, we're looking to get implemented into educational institutions. Trying to get into athletic departments. That's a huge part. I feel like this is what I needed as a coach, but also as an athlete. Definitely hit up Coach Fox, UTSA track team. Let's go. Also, some of the coaches at Texas State men's basketball. We are working to demo this and get it out there so people can see it, and also trying to get funding. I think this is something that can really impact the mentee-mentor relationship on all levels, like beyond school, beyond athletics. I think if you're a sales team, if you're doing stuff with at-home therapy, anything where you have to check in with someone, understanding how they're doing in relation to their goals and where they want to go is so powerful. Right? When you know your client's goals, you can show up better as a coach. You can show up with intention. You could say, hey, we're working on this because you said you wanted to work on your obliques or whatever. Right. So I think that is super powerful. And so as I put this out there more and more, Accountable Purpose is using a tool called Pulse Check. And Pulse Check allows you to grow in your self-awareness through self-reflection. And it connects you to your mentor, your coach, your guide. And I think that's important. So I'm excited to continue to pursue funding and get this into institutions.
Do you have all those economics figured out on the funding side?
We are working on that. The business plan part, I literally was working on a TAM, SAM, and SOM report earlier, and I'm not a businessman. I'm not a businessman at all. I'm not a developer. I'm not a coder. I am an educator. I'm a people developer, and I believe in that. And so I've got some incredible consultants and some incredible people that I'm working with to build what we need these pitch decks to, go forward and really make something out of this, from pitch decks to sales decks.
Fair.
I feel like I'm stepping back into sales, but that's okay. If I got to go to school and work with kids and help develop kids and then go work on the sales pipeline, that's a part of it. Alexis keeps calling this our garage phase, and I love it, man. It's a grind that I'm gonna look back and be like, wow, we had to do that to get here, and it was awesome. So I appreciate the opportunity to come in and talk about it, and also maybe get on your schedule so I can get some
little
1-2s.
Cross the whole thing.
I'm just saying, because it's this stuff's important, and I think the collective sphere in Austin is such a cool people place. And I feel like I'm pretty cool, but I feel like I'm not cool enough at times because there's a lot of cool folks that come in the door. So for you to give me this opportunity, man, is a blessing.
Sure, dude.
So cool.
Yeah, much love, and again, big fan of yours and Alexis, and anything I can do to help support the initiative, I'm all in.
I can't wait to show you guys. What about you? What's next for you?
Let's see. Okay. Still hold it down for Collective.
Come on.
Doing this cool project with Nutrabolt.
Oh, wow.
And out in Bee Cave. It's going to be a really cool headquarters for all their holdings companies and their employees that are in town and moving to Austin. Massive facility, big performance center as well.
Incredible.
So I'm going to be their performance director, which is dope.
Wow.
And help manage, some of the teams on the medical and the fitness side.
Yeah.
Figure out how to do that. And so professionally, some really cool stuff with that going.
Yeah.
Always trying to be a better father and show up for little man and just set him up in ways that I didn't really have.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So there's that.
The C4.
Yeah.
Eric's going to be promoting C4. This is brought to you by C4, by the way, if you didn't know. Boosts metabolism and supports fat loss. So
God willing.
I'm just saying, hopefully, right? But yeah, man, that's awesome. I think I'm super inspired by young people like yourself that have a plan and the work ethic behind it. Man, I wish I would have had that when I was, younger. I know you've been with Collective now since its inception, right? So what's that, like 4 years now?
July 21.
Okay.
I came aboard,
Yeah, so that's it's incredible, man, seeing you stick with this and just
before the bathrooms, before it all. Before it all. Yeah.
Hey, man, but it's awesome to see what it's turned into. Even in this place, it's like,
it's dope.
Who would have thought? So,
all right, I appreciate you.
Yeah, man, this is awesome.
All right, my man.
Cool.
Do it.
I don't know your process. I hope